Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Sharp YouTube channel. In this video, you're going to learn that how we can set up iCloud integration with our Reminders clone application. Right now, our Reminders clone application is working perfectly fine, but it's not really synced to iCloud. This means that I cannot really pick up another device like another phone or iPad and modify the app and see those changes in other devices. So this means that we need to enable iCloud for our Reminders clone application. Now I want to go and show you all the different steps that you need. So this video might be a little bit longer, and these all steps will also include all the errors that you will face. Because I don't really want to hide the errors from you. I want to show you the errors so that you will know how to fix those things. The first thing we need to do for iCloud integration is adding a capability for iCloud or CloudKit. So I'm going to select my Reminders clone app, and under the signing and capabilities, let's go ahead and click on that. And we can add a capability over here. And over here, we can go ahead and search for iCloud. And you can see that iCloud is one of the capabilities. So I'm just going to double click on that. And from the services, I'm going to use CloudKit. Next, I need to use some sort of a container. Now you can see that I already have a lot of different containers over here. Make sure that the app name doesn't really appear over here. I mean, we're just creating a new one, right? So make sure that we create a new one, or if you already have created one for containers, you can select that. Sometime I've seen that when you select an existing container, like if I select this budget, which is nothing to do with the Reminders clone, then it may act a little bit weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add a brand new container, and I'm going to use the same name. So com.azamsharp.reminders clone. Now, when you are creating your container, make sure that you provide a different name, a unique name. So your name can be com.johndoe, whatever your name is, dot reminders clone or reminders app or whatever, or your company name, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and create that container. Okay, so looks like the container is created. I can go and click on this CloudKit console and see this container on the side, on the server side. But before I do that, I do want to add another capability. So let's go ahead and add capability over here. Let's search for background modes. Okay, so we have a lot of different background modes over here available. So which one should we select, right? So there's audio AirPlay, there's location updates, and so on. So from the background modes, I'm going to select remote notifications. And the reason that I'm selecting remote notifications is that the iCloud server is going to send these notifications telling my application that the data has been changed or modified. So the view needs to be refreshed. All right, so make sure that you select remote notifications. Now let's go ahead and click on the CloudKit console. Now keep in mind that CloudKit console, when you click on it, you will need to enter your information for logging into Apple ID. So let's go ahead and first do that. Okay, so I added my username and email and my password, and now I can look at the CloudKit console. So you have to do the same thing, enter your email associated with your Apple ID and your password. There are many different options over here. I'm going to select CloudKit database because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to set up CloudKit database. And the first thing you will notice is on the top left, this is selecting a different app. This is not really the name of our app, right? The name of our app is something called Reminders Clone. So make sure that you select the correct application. So let's go ahead and select that. And from the database, not public database, we're going to select the private database. So there are three different kinds of databases that are available. But at the time of this recording with SwiftData, only the private database works. Private database means that only the person who has signed in with their Apple ID, they can write and read from the database. Public database means that anyone can read and write. And shared database means that you can share this database with some other person, maybe your spouse. But private database is the one that is currently working. And this is all okay for now. You can see that there are no errors over here. Sometimes when you select your iCloud, like this name of your project, you may see some error over here, like right here, that cannot load the container and things like that. I wouldn't worry too much about that. And the reason is that it just means that your iCloud is not set up at this particular moment. So if you give it a little bit, couple of minutes, it will be set up. All right, let's see what record type we have. So we got nothing. I mean, users is just by default, so we don't really have anything right now. So now we can go back to our code with these changes and try to build the application. Now, if we run the application, there is a possibility that we get a lot of different errors. It is going to try to communicate with iCloud server and try to sync it. But let's see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and run it in the simulator. And you can already see in our output window, a lot of stuff is going on. As you can see, it's related to CloudKit. Let's see our simulator. Okay, that's our simulator. Simulator, for some reason, it says beta. I don't know why it says beta simulator. I mean, that is the correct one, 17.2. So that should be okay. Let's just double check the version of Xcode. That is also 15.4, so that is okay. All right. So make sure that when you launch your simulator, you are signed into iCloud. So you can see right here in the settings, I am signed into iCloud. Okay? Make sure you do that. Now let me go back to our application. And let's just go ahead and try to add a list. So I'm going to go ahead and say anything I want over here. I can go ahead and say groceries. We just want to see that if it's even working or not. Okay, something happened. And it is saying fail to find a currently active container for my list. So we're already getting some weird issues with our CloudKit stuff going on. So you can see that right here, we're already getting some weird issues. So we need to fix all of these issues, obviously, because if we don't fix it, nothing is going to work. If we scroll up, you can also see a lot of different log statements going on, observing, remote store, context save, and all of those things. So we definitely need to figure out what exactly is going on. And I'm showing you all of these things because you are going to face these issues. You are going to have these issues. So what exactly is going on? It's not really giving us much information. It's just saying fatal error, failed to find a currently active container for my list. So it's, for some reason, it's not able to find the currently active container. Okay, let's go ahead and see what we can do to fix this issue. Now, when we see this kind of error, you might go back to your app file and you might say that maybe you forgot to add the model container, but we didn't. I mean, it's right there. So my list already has the model container. So that should be okay. But there are some other requirements. Unfortunately, the error might be a little bit misleading because the error might be related to that whenever we're trying to sync to iCloud, or SwiftData is trying to sync to iCloud, those models that we created, which is my list and the reminder, we need to make sure that these properties, either they have to be null, like initial value, or like this, or they have to have some sort of a default value. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, default value is like this. And what will be the default value of color code? Well, let's go to the preview container. Let's just copy some color code. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to copy this one. I don't know what color code is that, but just provide some sort of a default value. Or you can make them nullable if you want. Either way. All right. Okay, so reminders, we do have a default value right there. All right. But for relationships, it might complain that these have to be nullable. But let's see. I mean, we're just taking really small steps, trying to figure out what's going on, right? So that's the first thing that comes to our mind after reading the documentation. So that might help us a little bit. Okay, there we go again. No list has been added. So let me go ahead and add another list. I'll say groceries. Let's see what error now is thrown. Okay, it's the same thing. It just says the same thing. Fatal error, failed to find currently active container. So another time is giving the same error, which is kind of weird. Okay, so let's see that maybe we need to fix some other stuff. I mean, maybe the reminders need to be fixed also. All right. So for our relationships right over here, even though they do have a default value, since we're trying to sync, they have to be nullable. Now, if I make this nullable, I'll get some other errors because my application was not really saying that these will be nullable. So we need to try to find a way to fix these issues also. All right. Let's see how we can fix this. So you can see the reminders itself is optional. We can use like optional chaining and all that stuff. But again, it's going to cause some other issues. So we need to fix all of these issues because now the reminder itself becomes your null. So if you say over here, reminder, see that? Where does it say? It's kind of hard to see with all the error being displayed. But there we go. Reminder itself becomes kind of like a null. All right. So it's up to you. I mean, there are multiple ways that you can handle it. I'm just going to go ahead and unwrap it using the guard and try to just move forward one by one. Okay. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, let's go over here. Again, with the reminders over here, we're having an issue. You can see there, we are passing the mylist or reminders dot something something. And like over here, we're passing all of this stuff now. There are a bunch of ways to solve this problem. The quickest way I can think of is maybe we can do this null second and then unwrap it. Maybe we can do that part. Let's see over here. Probably we have to do it like this. There we go. But that's only for the list part, right? We still need to make sure that the reminder, so list, if we check over here, the name does have a value. The color code does have a value. Reminders is nullable because we're syncing to iCloud. That's a requirement. But reminder itself, oh, that's a different story. You can see this title doesn't really have any default value. So let's go there. Notes is good. It is nullable. It's completed. False. And date, reminder date and reminder time, they're all good. Great. So this should be okay. We're just putting some default values over there because that's the requirement for iCloud. Okay, let's go ahead and run it again. Okay, at least we can see the groceries. That's a good sign at least, right? You can see that the groceries was added. That's a good sign. Let's go ahead and say another one, UK trip. Okay, no error. See that? We're just moving one step at a time. One step at a time. Okay, so this means that our stuff that I had in the groceries, that was already there. Remember, I think we added 2% milk in the last lecture. So that's why it got synced, and I didn't really edit it, but it was added like yesterday. So we can actually see that. All right. So this looks promising, but I also want to go on to the side of CloudKit. Okay, right here. And I want to actually move this to a different screen. Let's see if I can move it over here. That should sound about right. Okay. So in the CloudKit, can I select something? Well, let's go ahead and refresh this. Making sure that we have the reminders clone selected because that's our application. Don't start selecting like something else. There's so many other stuff going on, right? Private database is fine. For some reason, it creates its own CloudKit zone. So I'm just going to try to select that and see what happens. And then when I select the record type, you can see my list and reminders. So all of these record types, they exist in this zone that is created through my app. So I'm going to go ahead and select my list. And if I try to query it, it is going to tell me that the record name is not marked queryable, meaning I cannot get it, I cannot query for it. So what can we do at this case? I think this should be by default. The record name should be queryable, but we can always go and do it ourselves. So I'll go to indexes. Okay. And kind of weird way that it is displaying now. I don't think it used to display like that. Maybe they changed it. Okay, so what we are trying to find out is, well, none of them is actually over here. Let me go ahead and add a new one. Okay, record type is my list. Record name, I'm not sure why it's asking me record name. Should I say record name over here? Queryable, field. Field is record name. I'm not sure what record name, what they're talking about the record name over here. Let's see I have no idea what that means. Like, why are they asking me for the record name? I guess they're asking me which record name, like which thing I want to query, which doesn't make any sense. Or maybe it was in record type. Sometime, I think they changed this, so it becomes a little bit hard for me to find these things out. Okay, let's see if that does anything. Not default. Oh, not the public database. We will have in a private, and then we'll select this. And there we go. Awesome. You can see my trips over here. All right. You can see UK trip and groceries. So that's pretty cool that I can see both of these things. Let's go and check out our app. Now I do wonder, and keep in mind that the sync part, this really works nicely if you're on the device and not as nice if you are working with a simulator and like some sort of a web UI. But what I want to do is, this looks like it's working, right? What I want to do is I want to go to my web UI. Let's go ahead and click on the UK trip. And on the right hand side, I want to change UK trip to UK trip 2024 and then save it. Okay, so you can see that over here, it's not really changing. You see that? It didn't really change over here. And I think one of the reasons that it didn't change is, remember that in the capabilities, we added remote notifications. But since you're running it on the simulator over here, you can't really deal with the remote notifications. So what we want to do is we want to try to run it on an actual device, an actual physical device. And then we can see that if the data changes on our cloud, meaning over here using the dashboard, does that automatically reflect in our device, on our app or not? Now, before we run this, we do need to enable one other small settings, which is in reminders entitlement file. All right. And you can see right over here, I've added a brand new key. This is called the app sandbox, and the value is yes. Make sure that you're not building while you're adding this property. Sometimes when you add this property and you try to build your application again, then it gives you an error. Don't worry too much about it. Go ahead. If you get an error after adding this property, go to product, press your option key, and clean build folder immediately. All right. So this particular property, app sandbox, we're going to turn or we're going to set it to Boolean, and it's going to be yes. And when it is yes, it enables macOS app sandboxing for the application. This is a security feature provided by the macOS that isolates apps from each other and limits their access to system resources and also user data. So make sure that you turn it to yes. After this, let me show you a small demo where I am adding from an iPad and I'm adding from an iPhone. So let's go ahead and see. So here's a small demo. On the left side, we have iPhone. I'm going to go to the iPhone and I'm going to add a new list. I'm going to call it Houston Trip. Select the color and add it. On the right hand side, you can see the iPad, and eventually it will show on the iPad. There we go. Now I'm going to go to the Houston trip and try to add a reminder. Now you'll see that this reminder does not really get reflected on the iPad. So we have a bug. Let's fix it. Okay, so something is going on that is preventing the reminders to show when I add a reminder. This is responsible for the My List Details screen, because that's the screen which is getting the reminders and then passing it down to the reminder list view. Now, one of the things that you will note over here is the reminders are passed using the My List that is available in the My List Details screen. But the changes, and this goes for the iCloud, the changes in the reminders, because we're adding something to the reminders, is not being reflected. This is not really being updated. But it's updating on our client side, meaning on our, on the SwiftData side. But whenever we try to connect it with iCloud, it doesn't reflect. So how can we fix this issue? Well, one of the ways to fix this issue is to not use the reminders, right over here, not use the reminders, which is one of the properties of my list. And you should just fetch the reminders based on the list that you're passing. What does that mean? Well, this means that when you pass a list, we can go ahead and create this, like it's just a constructor, initializer, nothing else. We can set the my list to whatever, my list. Okay, that's nothing new. But over here, we can also go ahead and create a reminders query. So we can create this dynamic query. All right. Now, this is not really going to work for every single scenario, but it will work for scenarios where you're adding a new reminder, and you should be able to see that reminder being added or deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and add a query, which will be for reminders. We'll call it reminder. Okay. Now we don't really want to fetch all the reminders because we only want to fetch the reminder for that list that you're passing. So I'm going to go ahead and get the list ID, which can be my list.persistent model ID. So this is going to give me the list ID. And now I can create a predicate. Predicate equals to predicate. Predicates are still tough, like especially the dynamic predicates, because this particular predicate is only going to be set up when you land on this particular view, because it is inside the init. So you can't really change this predicate in an easier way. And that's just one of the limitations of SwiftData right now. So predicate will be on reminder, and we'll see that if the reminder.list.persistent model ID is equals to the list ID, and the reminder is not completed, because if it's completed, we don't really want to return that. Then we can go ahead and create our dynamic query passing in the predicate. So underscore reminder, this is a private property that we're using, which is available to us. And now if we scroll down, we don't have to use my list or reminders and all that stuff. We can simply just use reminders. So that is, the reminders is now a dynamic query, and It's only dynamic when you land on this particular screen because this initializer is only going to fire once. And once again, as I said before, it's just a limitation. There's no easy way to get dynamic predicates to work in SwiftData right now. All right. Okay, so now we have made the change. Make sure we save the change, and now we can go ahead and run and see that if it works or not. So here we go. We are running the app on the device again. I'm going to go to Houston on the iPhone, and I'm going to add a hotel. Let's go ahead and see. And once I add the hotel, you can see it appears on the right hand side. Now, if you see that they're out of sync, don't worry about it. Both of them were recorded a little bit separately. So maybe that's why you're looking at and you're seeing it a little bit out of sync, but they are synced together. Okay. I mean, they are updating. Now you can see that the details are not updating. And when I delete, then it updates. Correct. So there you have it. We have completely built the application, the reminders clone from Apple. It does have notification. It has syncing with cloud. Now, there are, of course, some bugs like when you edit a reminder, those details are not synced. That's one of the part is associated with that there is no capability of dynamic predicates in SwiftData. So there are some hacky ways that you can implement those things. But hopefully they will add that in the future and we can easily use dynamic predicates. But as of current, there are no ways to do dynamic predicates with SwiftData. All right. So hopefully you have enjoyed this. I had so much fun implementing this application. And if you find these kind of solutions in a nice way, then let me know and I'll update some content and we will use your solution. Thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you like this video and want to support my channel, then the best way would be to check out my website, azamsharp.school. Azam Sharp School consists of a lot of different courses for iOS development, including the SwiftUI architecture course. Now, this course is my 3+ years of work with learning about different architectures for SwiftUI. And I played around with a lot of different architectures, and the result was that the architecture for SwiftUI is the best one, is the built-in one. So that is going to give you the least amount of pain, and you will be able to use all the functionalities provided by Swift. So that is what the course is all about. You can see that we talk about MVVM, migrating from MVVM to MV, understanding aggregate model stores, SwiftUIs, validation, navigation, and a huge section on testing. So this is a great course if you want to learn about architecture and you want to learn about how different things can be done in SwiftUI and working with SwiftUI, not against it. Apart from that, I'm also hosting a lot of different workshops. So if you want to learn about SwiftData, this is a hands-on workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop, and we're going to learn about so many different things like SwiftUI, SwiftData fundamental relationship testing, and even CloudKit integration. So check out these things here on azamsharp.school.